I'm not gonna read any poems. I'm gonna tell two stories that have to do with poetry. Two experiences. I think many of you know I go on the road and travel around the country doing readings, etc. These are two experiences on two different journeys I took that have to do with poetry. And the first one was when I was traveling along the Mississippi River in 1998. I traveled from Itasca, where the Mississippi starts, all the way down to Venice, Louisiana, 30 days, giving readings and exploring and that. And this is an experience I had on that journey. And I write a lot of haiku and haibun. One of my books is 20 Days on Route 20, about traveling across America on Route 20. And it's written in a Japanese form called haibun. So this first story had to do, it was in Minneapolis. And it was October, the 5th day of the Mississippi journey. And I was on Nicollet Island, which is right by downtown Minneapolis, right in the river. And I'm walking around the outside of the island. And I hear these birds that I knew what they were, one of my favorite birds, cedar waxwings, but I couldn't see them. So I sort of walked down this little bank and got to the river, and there's the birds. I've got my binoculars up and looking at them and smiling. Yeah, cedar waxwings, cool. And I turned around to go back up, and there's a gentleman standing there who wasn't there before. And he had a camera, and he was Japanese, and we started talking. He was wondering what I was looking at. I explained to him, and he mentioned he was from Japan, and this was his first time in Minneapolis. And so I sort of got excited. Oh, you're Japanese. Well, I wrote this book in haibun, and I'm on this journey for 30 days, and I write haiku and haibun. And immediately he knew exactly what haibun was, and we'd talk about basho and issa and busan and haiku and all this, the writing, and he knew all these poets. We had this wonderful conversation. And I looked at him, I said, do you still read haiku? And this is what he did. I am an engineer now. My life has gotten like this. Maybe I should read haiku again. And we continued talking. It was wonderful, Maybe I should read haiku again. And we'd continue talking, and he said, oh, you must come to Japan. And he gave me his business card as I was leaving. And he was the assistant manager of Toshiba's space program. My life has gotten like this. And we parted, and I wrote about him, and I sent him an email, about that experience, and he wrote back and thanked me. And then about a week after I finished the journey, I got an email from him. And it was just, Zarnecki-san, I am reading haiku again. And then the last story is on 20 Days on Route 20. It goes through Wyoming and that longest route in the country. With Thermopolis, Wyoming, there's the Hot Springs State Park there, and it's hot springs that the Shoshone and who else? I'm losing it here. Two of the tribes said the water, when they signed over the land, said the water must be made free to the public forever. So you can go into this hot springs for 20 minutes without charge, and I did. The following year, Grayson and I went in. And then this year, we were out west again. And for the third time, I stopped at the hot springs. And we were all in the outside pool. It's 140-degree water, and it's just wonderful, and the mountains around, and just gorgeous, terrific, beautiful place. And just, my 20 minutes was almost up. A few minutes before the 20 minutes was up, these two couples came into the pool and sat off on the side, and older couples, seniors, and I'm listening, they're talking, and they're not speaking English. It's either Russian or Polish, but I wasn't sure which it is. And I'm Polish, but I never learned the language. So anyway, I'm sitting there, my time's up now, and I decided instead of getting out right here, I wanted to walk by them and just ask. So as I start walking by, I go, Russian or Polish? Russian. I said, okay. And then we got talking. They asked, why do you ask? And I mentioned, I'm Polish-American. And one of them had a relative who's Polish, lives in Chicago. And they asked me a few questions. And I said, I'm a poet, and I'm giving readings. I travel around the country. And the one woman goes, I read poetry. I said, oh, terrific, because we need people reading poetry. And her husband goes, no, she doesn't just read poetry, she recites poetry. I said, oh, really? I said, can you recite a poem for me? Now my 20 minutes is up, I'm beyond, I'm waiting for the hook, okay, time's up. And I said, please, could you recite a poem? So she stood up in this Mineral Springs hot water, this outdoor pool, mountains all around, and starts reciting this poem in Russian, which, I totally, I have no idea what she's speaking. But, she starts out slowly, and then you could hear this anger and maybe a little fear, and then this soft voice, and just all these different emotions. No idea what this was about, though. And she went on for, a few minutes, just dramatic. She finished, and I applauded. And I said, I have no idea what you just spoke, but who wrote that? And she said, oh, it's Maxim Gorky. I go, oh, really? And I read some of his novels years ago. And I said, could you tell me briefly what you were saying, what the poem was about? And she said, well, the Tsar went off, they were in battle, and all the men were killed. And the Tsar was coming back to get more men to go to war. And as he's going back, he hears this laughter, a young woman's laughter from behind the bushes. And he thinks she's laughing at him. And he demands she comes out. And she goes, no, Tsar, I don't want to come out. I'm with my boyfriend and we're kissing. And no, don't make me come. No. And he demands that she comes out. And he wouldn't believe that she wasn't laughing at him. And he has her taken under guard and she's going to be executed. So here she's being watched by the guard that night, and she's going to be executed at daybreak. And she's talking to the guard and telling the guard, look, this is what is important, what I was doing with my boyfriend, the kissing, and this is what really matters. Not the Tsar and getting men and going off to war and getting people killed. It's the kissing, it's the love. This is why we're all here. This is what's really important. And the guard feels sorry for her and lets her go to her boyfriend that night. But you must return in the morning to be executed. Whew, Russian literature. But what a wonderful experience that was, hearing this in this hot springs pool. And the poetry's everywhere. So thank you very much.